are live.
We are live. Okay, this is the Senate Education Committee, back after a tour of the school and lunch with students and teachers. It's a lot of fun. And we're back here at the White River Valley High School. We'll introduce the committee in a second. Just to say that, let's try to start all of these panels off with. What we're trying to do is take a little time we have before the session starts, when it's impossible to get out of the building, frankly, and get out and go to some districts around the state. We've tried to identify districts who are all a little bit different than each other, so that we get a different perspective of each visit. The overarching theme is providing excellent educational opportunities for every Vermont student. That's what we want to talk about. The challenges, the opportunities you see, the challenges you see, and what you're doing. And here we are with this school. We've chosen part of this district in part because we wanted to really focus on rural Vermont, as rural Vermont is trying to provide the same opportunities for kids that other schools are trying to do. So that's the sort of overarching theme. I'm Seth Longard, so I represent the Bennington Senate District in the Senate. I'm chair of the Senate Education Committee. And over here on my left,
Steve Heffernan, Addison County District.
Keisha Ram Hinsdale, Chittenden County, and I taught for several years at the law.
Good afternoon, Dave Weeks, representing Rutland County. I live in Crook.
Good afternoon, Terry Williams. I represent Rutland County. I live in Pullman.
just one more comment to make is each stop we've done a student panel like we did this morning, and a panel with teachers. Those are two groups we don't get to hear from that much during the session. And so those students, obviously very close to the ground, teachers very close to the ground. That's what we're really, so this is one of the highlights of the trip, so I guess what I want to say. So we really look forward to hearing from you. We've had great interaction with teachers in other schools. So you're on. Never leaving.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
My name is Brian Herrick. I am the school librarian at the Newton School in Stratford. It's a K-8 school. It's my second year there, brand new, but it's my 31st year in education. So I'm a career educator. Being new to a place definitely allows you to see it in a different way and have an outsider lens. And I've been very grateful to step into the community, be welcomed, and really see what rural schools look like. Also being new, I felt like it was really important to get the information from my colleagues. So the documents that we put in front of you was something that I put together after using a survey at my own school. And that was very successful in getting their quotes and their perspectives. And then I did the same thing with my colleagues here. So there's a second document as well. And I think, you know, what you're going to see is some real through lines in there. Things like school is the heart of community, students who are known and seen, individualized, differentiated learning, relationships drive academic success, and local voices and choice. So I know there's a lot of text there, and I'm grateful if you take the time because I think that you really get the comments from the people who couldn't necessarily make it today.
Did you give a copy to our staff?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
good. So
we'll
post it.
And before I turn it over to my colleagues, I wouldn't be a librarian if I didn't bring it back with books. So I just have to read very quick. If you haven't read Gather yet, in the words of Ken Cotto at the end, he says, "In my teaching career, I've encountered dozens upon dozens of stories like Nance. Kids whose spirits are threatened to be crushed by societal disregard. The kids who are able to pull through by the ingenuity of their skill set and the strength of their character, as well as the care of their larger communities, are some of the strongest people I've ever had the pleasure of meeting." And I really think that sums up what rural schools and communities do for students. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lisa Dragon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Close.
I'm Lisa Dragon. I'm a high school science teacher here at White River Valley High School. And as I was thinking about what to share with you today, I think it's important to mention that our high school was part of a voluntary merger with Exploit. So we joined with Bethel and really created a brand new school. And while I think both schools were doing really great things, I think we've done greater things together, even though it was a challenging process. one of the things I think that made that merger so successful is that there was an incredible amount of collaboration beforehand. We had, I don't know how many multitudes of committees involving students and parents and community members and teachers trying to get it right. And I think what we've built since then, I think we've really got right. And we have, I think, the size high school that we have right now is really uniquely positioned to let us do what we value, right? So as I was thinking about what we really value is, you know, we want to know every student well. I think everyone needs to be heard and seen and valued before they can be willing to take those academic and social risks that really result in growth in community. So the fact that we can get to know every student well, and I mean that both through personal relationships with kids, but also through the data. How do we really target our courses? How do we target our interventions and supports for them? How do we create those community structures that are going to help them? Really requires a pretty intimate knowledge of who our kids are, right? We really strive to create opportunities here that every kid can participate in. I came here from a much larger school district, and I remember coming here and thinking, well, there really aren't the clicks here I saw in a bigger school, and why is that? And it was because everybody was involved in everything. Theater kids played sports, like, I didn't see that in bigger high schools where kids had to try out and maybe wouldn't get on the team or wouldn't get to participate. They really get to find out who they are through these opportunities. And I think we're flexible and can evolve. We've created many new courses even in the last 5 years to target what kids need. If they're struggling in math, we create a math course that's going to allow them to gain those skills, right? And then I think all in all, our focus on community is really about belonging, right? They have to feel like they belong in a place. And, you know, I have my own student that just started at the middle school, I think would be a small middle school, would be relatively odd in a bigger school, right? So I think, you know, we have at a time where a lot of students are experiencing a crazy world and a lot of anxiety and depression and struggling with social structures, having a place that they can go and be known and understood and supported has been really important for our kids. And, you know, it's not just about the community. We see this in our data. Like, I'm in the science department, and we are so proud. We're across the SU 12% above average for the state testing last year, which is just, you know, speak to their hard work. And the kids say that it feels like a family being here. That feels good. You want to go every day. You want to attend. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
My name is Lindsay Shell. I'm a preschool teacher and preschool director at Sharon Elementary School. In my room, I have 3, 4, and 5-year-olds for the littlest of them. Right now, we have Monday through Friday care, 8 to 3, so the full day, which is really wonderful. That helps them support families to offer that full school day. We also offer aftercare services, which are 3 to 5, which helps support our families. Help support our families even more. My primary goal with 3, 4, and 5-year-olds is to develop their social and emotional skills. And I do that through creating personal and authentic relationships with them. And when you create those personal, and authentic relationships, that really helps you build community, being part of a community, provides a sense of purpose and value. And I'm able to do that in a small rural school.
Hi, I'm Donna Gowan. I am a teacher and reading interventionist at the Rochester Southbridge Unified District. 2 schools, about 10 miles apart. In a small school, a child is truly known by responding to academic strengths and challenges, teaching life skills, and providing emotional support. We continually adapt to meet each child's needs. We call it RSUD for now. At RSUD, individualized reading and spelling assessments are given to our K-3 students So we can accurately determine exactly where each child is currently at instructionally and be able to provide direct instruction to speak to their explicit needs. And we thoughtfully form these reading groups and spelling groups, which in a small school allows us to be flexible where there may be a second grader that's really doing work closer on a third grade level and be able to have those children and be able to be a part of a different classroom. So we're able to be incredibly flexible and nimble to respond to needs. We, of course, provide intervention as needed, but we also do something we call double dipping, which is when some students just need a little bit more practice of certain things like fluency or being able to practice words that they may have missed. We call it goodbye lists, so more accurately being able to use certain words. So all of us pitch in to be able to support students in that way. We know that science-based literacy instruction is essential and foundational for our students, so we take that extremely seriously and work really hard to give students what they need. And in a small school, we can also enjoy academically rich bonus literacy sort of activities, things like literacy in the woods or poetry jams or I love to read events with the community members. We love to have books and bagels. We have that a few times a year, which supports our local businesses, bakeries in both towns that provide miniature-sized bagels, and we have families come in to read with students. So we really try to pull in the community as much as possible and be immediately responsive to what our students need and provide the extras as well.
I'm Mary Shell. I'm the Community School Coordinator for WRPSU. This is my 4th year. I'm starting my 4th year in the position, and we were one of the 5 funded community schools in the first cohort from the Community School Act 2021. I spent 26 years in the high school classroom as a social studies teacher in 3 high schools in Vermont. And I was the director of an organization Up for Learning for 3 years. And I'd like to share with you my perspective on community schools and the impact that potential consolidation might have on our efforts to to grow our community connection. As a community school, we believe, and it is a belief system, that communities, not schools alone, are responsible for and responsive to the conditions necessary for children to thrive. Our community school model shifts from an inward, isolated model based on a finite amount of resources, teachers, building, budget, class sizes, to one that sees and utilizes vast resources. Community members, including UVM intern, expertise, intergenerational learning, and resources that reflect the people and the places that children know and where they live. Ultimately, as a community school, we are intentional about removing barriers to student and family engagement by utilizing local resources and building collaborative relationships with and between our community partners. This results in meaningful engagement where families and children can position themselves in a larger and deeper context. And both our schools and community members are provided with opportunities to be part of something bigger than themselves. Our intentional efforts are built one conversation at a time and one relationship at a time, while at the same time building systems so that we do not revert to an isolated and disconnected school model. Our community school effort provides an integrated system that finally facilitates the best of all of Vermont's aspirational education legislation and deep commitment to multi-tiered systems of support. We are grounded in the truth that learning and the well-being of our students, families, and communities cannot be separated. These relationships cannot simply move into a larger system without being weakened or lost. Protecting White River Valley Supervisory Union matters. It matters because strong schools build strong communities, because rural schools sustain Vermont's future, and because the choices we make now will shape rural Vermont far beyond my career and yours for decades to come. I urge the committee to recognize that rural schools are not duplicative structures. They are the backbone of rural communities. Consolidation risks unraveling very ecosystems that allow children, families, and our communities to thrive, and that is our shared responsibility. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kylie Edwards. I'm a special educator at Bethel Elementary, that is also in this district. So we are in a school in South Rose Elementary and Bethel Elementary. I had the pleasure years ago, working here. I ran the alternative education program in the elementary level, and that served students from across the supervisory union. Those were students that would have otherwise been placed out of district at an independent school in another community. But we had the opportunity to have those students here in our supervisory union, allowing them to stay connected to teachers who they already knew, special teachers, so like the librarian, music teacher, they maintain those connections. They maintain connections with their peers in their community. They still have access to maintaining those relationships, working on those relationships. One thing for me that was really important was having students stay here really contributes to their sense of belonging. When they're sent to an alternative school, an independent school out of their community, they don't always feel like they belong in their community still. And allowing them to stay here really gave them a sense of belonging. They were still part of our community, still part of White River Valley Supervisory Union. Students are ready to transition back away from an alternative program. We have so many opportunities to integrate them in a meaningful way that's important to them. The student likes art class, okay, we can start there. It's not just kind of, oh, you're pushed back into the community for time. We can really be intentional about that student. Keeping students in our supervisory union allows students and families, and importantly, also be connected to the adults that they were already working with. They don't have to come up with a whole new team of people working at another school. They're now still having the same adults and the same team members working with them, same special educators, same director of special services. And it allows us to continue to gather data on students so that we can serve them continuously, not kind of disjointed, now they're gone and then we come back. We are serving them continuously throughout their time, going from a mainstream to an alternative and hopefully back to a mainstream. Right now, I also I work as a direct service provider in Bethel, so I pull students for specialized services. And one of the things I love about our small community and small school is all of the students are our students. If a student goes into special ed, it is not now just their student special ed, they're all of our students, and I really feel that in our small school. The classroom teacher and the special educator and all the related service providers really work together to make sure that student is everyone's student, not just belonging in one side room. I think having our smaller schools, we can identify challenges earlier. We are having the data meetings, you can see in those data meetings, hey, this kiddo is struggling with it, let's get an intervention in place immediately, and then move up the multi-tiered system there. Our schools really support inclusion while still meeting intensive needs. For our students who have intensive needs, they are still being included in their community and they're still part of their community. That's really important. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Russ. I am currently a first and second grade literacy teacher at Bethel Elementary School. I have been teaching in Bethel for approximately 20 years, and also in the primary grade level. I am also a resident of here in South Royalton, and I grew up in Tunbridge, so I come from a very small rural school setting background as a student and now as a parent. I currently have a student here in the high school as a sophomore, and my eldest son just graduated last year from high school. My talking point today is really just talk about the personal relationships that I have built as a staff member, and to also talk about how my children are building those same relationships as students in their school. When I first came to Bethel as a teacher, I was very nervous, and I had a lot of support around me to just learn the curriculum and to build up relationships with building the benefit over the last 20 years is that I have had a lot of those same members of our community in our school stay, which has built really strong bonds among us within our building. It doesn't matter if it's a personal issue or if we're having trouble with a student, or if we just need a question answered and we need some help with something. We really have a strong commitment to each other as staff and a commitment to our students to have those conversations as needed or to get them support on a moment's notice if you're feeling a pinch or if you're feeling a struggle. I've always had support surrounding me, whether I was a being teacher or a veteran teacher. And I think the small schools really allow those opportunities to happen because we get to know each other on a personal basis, not only from what we do within our school, but what we do outside of our school. My children were both able to be a part of the merger as it came into the Bethel and South Royalton schools. My eldest son was a sixth grader, so he actually got the opportunity to experience it full through. And then, of course, my younger son is doing the same. He was the first group to come together as a sixth grade class in the middle school. And that opportunity allowed him to get to know kids on another level. They got more opportunity to be able to do other things as a larger group, but also keeping that small community centered. We also experienced COVID within that time, so that was also a new experience. And just speaking as a parent from that perspective, I still saw community come through the screen. We were able to communicate via email through Google Meets, which was fairly new to me, but we caught on real quick. And I would just say they had the opportunity to show the support and receive support if necessary. And also, it really showed me how well teachers are able to plan some amazing lessons in a really critical time in our life. Moving forward, as a teacher in that time, I didn't know how that was gonna look. And all I can say is the small community will really rally around you when you're having a hard time. And they were able to give support from a distance. And I can only say thank you so much to those parents, because without them and without the support that I felt through a screen or a text or something of the same, I don't know if I was even doing a good job or felt like I was helping my students at that time. But we pushed forward and we moved forward. And I don't know if the larger schools, because I've never had the experience, would have that same feel. But I still felt centered and it felt like home, and it felt confident for my students and for myself as a parent. For the last 20 years, I would say education has certainly changed, and the conversations we're having now are not ones I would have necessarily expected. But having been through so many different aspects of the education with my kids and with myself, I can only say that I hope that the conversations we continue to have will benefit all of us as you guys move forward with this. But I am thankful for my staff that works with me daily. I'm thankful for the opportunity to have people support my kids with their personal learning plans. Both of my children learn very differently, and it is not uncommon to get an email or hey, how you doing at a basketball game? I wanted to check in with you. And I just feel like those personal moments are not necessarily something you would see if you were in a larger community. And I can only say thank you for those moments, because without them, I might not know if my kids are doing the best they could be, and those relationships is valued. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Vicki Barnum. I come to you today as a pre-K and 5 to 8 school counselor. I'm also a parent and a sophomore in high school who is utilizing school choice, and a fifth grade who's in a merged district in First Branch. Those are two towns, Shelby, Hundreds, and another suburb district. I also come to you as a child, an adult child now, of a family of who I was raised as a business owner, a small business owner in the state of Vermont. My parents ran a small country store for nearly 20 years. So I understand the burdens that all of you are facing in the legislature, and we are as the Vermonters. I also recognize that I made a conscious choice in 2016 to return to Vermont, or excuse me, 2005 to return to Vermont, and in 2006 to work in public education. It was then I was given the opportunity to become a school counselor at Chelsea School. At that point, it was a K through 12 school. At that point, the enrollment was probably around 325 students, again, K through 12. So I want to share some thoughts from my perspective as a parent and as a school counselor. Small schools are vital to communities. They're often anchors in all of our communities in the state of Vermont. Small schools, from my perspective, provide individualized educational opportunities and are really able to meet the needs of students socially, emotionally, and academic. As we've seen and you've heard from my colleagues today, we are really data-driven in Vermont education, and we're looking at students individually and making conscious decisions to meet the needs of students. As I said, I was able to begin my career as a K through 12 school counselor in a small town. When Act 46 came along, the town of Chelsea, like many other towns, did what was asked. And through the process, they closed its high school. It was through this process that the residents of Chelsea decided that they would become a choice town. This was done through a process that involved everyone's voice, everyone's needs, and everyone's goals for educating children in our town. Successful mergers require time. They require time for visioning, planning, and are voluntary. As a school counselor in middle school, I have a distinct opportunity every year to work with families in the 8th grade. We bring in and invite local high schools to come in and participate in what looks like a college fair, but it's really a high school fair, where families and students get the opportunity to meet with high schools and to help start the process of determining what is the best fit for their student, what is the best fit for their family. And so that is also one of the reasons that I stay in education, is because I get to help families and guide them to whatever is the best fit for them for high school. One size does not fit all, and all of our students deserve the opportunity to make the best decision for themselves, and families make the best decision for their family. So thank you.
Questions? I'm just out of curiosity about kids going into high school in Chelsea. What kind of blocks of kids go there, and what kind of percentage?
Okay, so primarily our students who live, what's important to note is that I work for the First Branch Unified District. So we operate a pre-K through 8 school, except for I work in Chelsea, so that is the pre-K 5 through 8, and in Tunbridge is the K through 4 campus. So students in Tunbridge and Chelsea all have school choice. So our 8th graders in Tunbridge and Chelsea are choosing to attend White River Valley High School, Thetford Academy, and Sharon Academy, primarily. I would also say that there are certainly other students and other families that are choosing schools in other parts of Vermont. And when I say that, I say, U32 in East Montpelier, Montpelier, we have students who have gone to Hartford High School. So it really comes down to what is the best fit for the student and what is the best fit for the family, also depending upon where the families are working.
Questions from the committee? Yeah.
So, I don't think I've fully taken on board before today that a choice community, isn't part of the vote for bonding for their regional high school. So that seems to me one of the main problems that people are asking us to solve at the legislative level, is how do you have just a handful of local communities having to bond and make that decision about supporting something as massive as a comprehensive high school, when there are towns that are not part of any of those bond votes. I don't know if others can speak to that, but I just wonder, I don't want to close anybody's school. I was encouraging your students to think, what if this high school was bigger? frankly, what if you did get your performing arts center? And the only way I see the legislature being able to help that become a reality is drawing complete maps that say, you can send your child wherever you want, but you are paying for this region's school facility.
Part of the answer may be the tuition, level of tuition that gets charged by the receiving school.
But I think
Because
it
it's
should be
different.
going
It's
to
different.
public school.
But it's different though, but the receiving schools can charge, set a tuition.
But you can be a choice town. I still think you have to be paying for the public facility in your region.
We'll talk about, anyway. My point was that they do it indirectly.
Yeah, and I don't think, I mean, I'm certainly not the expert on this, but I think, I live in a town where my taxes go to both, my educational taxes go to the local school in which I live in, but also help support the tuition of high school students. Part of my role as a school counselor is when I'm working with students and families, I'm collecting data that helps inform budgetary decisions. So our business office can look at where the students are going to for high school and help build a budget around that. Because high schools do vary in what the cost is.
So, questions from the committee? I'll ask one, I don't know, it could also be a question for the principals and the superintendent, but how are you doing keeping kids at the grade level for math and English, and like by the time they get to high school, how are you doing with those? I'm somebody who is, skeptical of just always just looking at test scores. I know that doesn't begin to tell the story, but just in terms of that, because you talked about intervention and the work you do to help kids keep up, how are you doing?
I think we do an exceptional job, frankly. We are able to see every child and meet every child's needs. We have very specific instructions that we give students to be able to help meet them where they're at and to help them to be able to grow. And we have really the math curriculum that we're using SU-wide, and that has made a huge impact on the success of our students. And in terms of literacy, as I spoke to already, it's very individualized where students are at, and we're able to do a phenomenal job. I can't really speak to our small schools too much because we're too small to be able to say anything too specific. But in our small school, we're almost on some test scores was 100% where our kids are at in terms of meeting or doing a fund. So I think that we've done things exceptionally well. An example I can give you is we have one small class this year where 75% of the kids are on an IEP. And it's a very small class, not something that we would want to have a class necessarily that small, but the growth those students have seen this year has been phenomenal. And a part of that is because that classroom teacher is giving a tier 1 instruction very specifically to each of those children right where they're at. So that's been pretty incredible.
I see a hand over there.
I just wanted to back up, Donna. In my literacy class right now with the first and second grade, I have a lot of good opportunity to work with students individually, but also in small group. And we've really focused in the last couple of years at doing a better job of progress monitoring students. So catching them earlier than when we would go to our testing windows. So I'm able to test students within a 2-week window to check in on certain skills. And at that point, I can let intervention know, like, I'm seeing some concerns for saying this child is making some really wonderful progress. Just want to let you know what I'm seeing here in the classroom. And I would also say our interventionist and I talk daily and we meet weekly. So we're able to really keep track of how our students are doing. We're currently in the middle of our testing window now. So more information to come about how the progress has moved forward since the beginning of the year. But I think progress monitoring also helped us really catch kids before we wait a 3-month period to have them doing.
I also think we use a variety of strategies as well. You have Wilson, you have Morgan Gillingham, you have DI, and if DI isn't working for this kid, why don't we have this person try it with this kid? So we have a number of strategies that we can pull from internally to help support a kid and give them the program that is best for them.
Just real quick, I just did a research project in my library because I was trying to figure out where we were with circulation in the middle school. So I had to look at reading scores in the middle school. I was able to see that we are at or above grade level in the middle school. I know that's true for the younger as well. And I think it speaks to what people are saying, which is we have to ensure differentiated learning. We have an opportunity in a small community to really pay attention to who needs what support, so that we are able to keep up with who needs what and move forward.
Yeah, I know Senator Hefner had some question. Oh, well, go ahead. You go first.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we start this as early as pre-K. So we're doing literacy, that social and emotional skills is, you know, at the top of the list, but we do bridges, that is the math program she was referencing. So we're working on all of these curriculums that they utilize as the years go on, and we also have intervention staff that can step in and hit on these more attention.
So Senator Hefner had a question.
So my question is, I realize how important middle schools are, but as a community, how do we decide when it's time to say this school has gotten too small and we should do something about it? What are your thoughts? Because some of you have seen schools closed, and often or not, we always tell the bad side about it, which is hurting our community. But one, as a community, decide that, boy, the child's education is most important. Can't afford that bill. When do, because that's the decision we're making. And we need help going around these schools, it's helping us try to make that some type of change. But you're working in it. What kind of answer would you give to that? Of when is there a token point that you said we may have to close this community school? Because that's what we're challenging.
So in Rochester and Stockbridge, we had merged back 46. That was a bit of a painful process to go through at that time. And we've done some amazing things since then with having the two schools, including sharing the principals in buildings. We know that we're small, and we believe there's things that the school board can do to be able to have our two school communities be able to, we work phenomenally well together already, but there's more that can be done in terms of class size to be able to do that. One of the things I wanted to mention is we had a K-1 teacher at Stockbridge School for over 30 years probably, who was amazing, an amazing teacher. And one of the amazing things about our teachers in this supervisory union is how willing they are to do whatever it takes to support students, and even including learning new things. She retired last year, and we have a new teacher this year who had taught in a much bigger school district. So she is so fortunate that she as well is an amazing teacher. What she said to me, well, before the school year started, we talked about how her students will be reading. Kindergartners will be reading. That is what happens for us. She said, I've never really seen that before, by first grade, but not in kindergarten. So the kindergartners will be reading. So what she said to me was that she's blown away. Here it is, December, with how quickly she's seeing results, far more outcomes. The students are easily able to make progress. She has time to be able to get them to where they need to be. And then she had lots of lovely things to say about the community and how welcoming it has been to her. But for her, being in two different perspectives and being able to see how much more she can do with students, with it being a smaller setting, was night and day to what her students are able to accomplish. So I don't know how small is too small. I just know when it's small, we're able to do great things.
So, Laura, yeah, you go, then Dave, then Senator Weeks, and then we probably have to wrap this up because we're up against the clock.
I would just say, we are very fortunate in the White River Valley Supervisory Union to have really strong leadership at that level. And we're all speaking to curriculum that we use, and I might be the only school counselor in my building, but we're all using a shared curriculum supervisory union-wide, as well as the math and reading interventionist, classroom teachers. So there's a lot of sharing that happens at the supervisory level that does provide efficiencies. And also great collaboration between smaller schools. So it might not answer completely your question, Senator, but I think that it's important to note that the supervisory union is doing a great job with all of our schools to help and guide us to make sure that we're meeting students' needs, but we're also working together, and so that we're not working in isolation to meet all students' needs.
So Senator Weeks, and then I think we need to.
Okay, so the message is pretty clear. Small schools matter. Advocates of small schools, community schools, special education at a local level, small schools. So we're wrestling with the concept of small schools. And we put them in two buckets. There's small by necessity, essentially driven by geography, and there's small by choice. So we're trying to find the balance between really the small by choice. Small by necessity, we get that. It's small by choice, community choice, that we're listening to and trying to receive feedback in. And I just wanted to, because the theme here was very similar to the theme with the students earlier. So we're not trying to merge schools. We're trying to merge admin. And what we're trying to do is create a system of superintendents that have a larger footprint that they're looking at to make decisions, some economic, but primarily academic. What is the right size? What is the right fit for the schools in that particular region? And the problem that we're wrestling with is we have superintendents who are looking at that community. We have superintendents who are looking at that community of 10 school or 10 towns and such. We're trying to figure out, well, what's the right scale for where superintendents should be looking at essentially, what academic programs can we deliver for the students? That's kind of the essence of what we're wrestling with. We get it that, small is beautiful. Okay, we get it. Everyone here is a Vermonter, but we're trying to find the balance between small by choice. Where's that tipping point of when we should try to affect it. Anyway, I just wanted it's not a question, it's just kind of a summary of one of the things we're trying to wrestle. Thanks.
I'd love to keep this going, but we can't. So thank you so much. You've all been articulate and very helpful. So thank you.
Thank you for your
time. So we'll actually stay on because I think we're flipping right now just quickly to principals.
Have a good rest of your day. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So we're back on. You were all here when we introduced ourselves to the last panel. So I think you were.
I wasn't.
Okay.
Sorry, I skipped class.
Okay, you were in class. Okay. That's a good excuse. So we'll do a quick introduction. I'm Seth Bongartz. I represent the Bennington Senate District. I'm chair of the Senate Education Committee.
Steve Heffernan, Addison County District from Bristol.
Keisha Rom Hinsdale, Chittenden County.
Good afternoon, Dave Weeks, representing Rutland County, and I live in Prague.
Hello, everybody. Terry Williams from Rutland County.
So I think you're gonna go first, actually. We're dealing, by the way, for the people on screen, this is our time with principals from various parts of the district. So just introduce yourselves and move on.
My name is Lindy Stetson, and I'm the principal of Rochester and Stockbridge Unified District. Do you want to do full introduction?
Sure.
Or okay.
Can you say, because I'm looking at the map,
Yeah,
the Rochester,
Stockbridge Unified District, so Rochester and Stockbridge.
so you're the one who is the shared principal of both of those schools? Okay.
I'm Andrew Bowen. I'm the elementary principal here in Bethel. I also double duty.
My name is Pierre LaFlamme. I am not a principal shared between two buildings. I'm principal of middle school of the White River Valley Schools. Although I draw students from more than just the two setting towns of South Royalton and Bethel, and students from 7 different towns that show up physically on my campus.
Is your school here, co-located in this complex, or are you at the old Chelsea?
I'm over in Bethel. I'm in what was formerly the Wyndham High School, junior and senior high school.
Okay.
Just 15 minutes down the road.
So you're the middle school,
And middle school, we're at
and you're the principal there. for
I'm
the
elementary
school.
here and there.
And there, okay. I don't know how you all do it, that's right.
So you're on.
And I'm Shane Oates, I'm the high school principal here with, high school.
And do you split your day, or do you do it day here, day there? How do you do it?
Yeah, so I start on Mondays here, Tuesdays and Thursdays in Bethel, Wednesdays I'm here, Fridays for my days, I start the day here, and I go down. And I'm very flexible, and everyone has my cell phone number, and we work together.
So I know you all have something you want to say to us.
Yeah, so I do better with a lesson plan, so I'm prepared with words, so I'm just gonna read it and then you can ask all the questions. So I'm Andrew Bowen, I'm a lifelong fifth generation Vermonter, a Bethel resident, and a parent of a second grader at Bethel Elementary School and a senior here at the high school. I serve as the White River Elementary Principal for both the Bethel and Royalton campuses within our supervisory unit. I have been in the district for 26 years, beginning my career here as a first grade teacher in 2000. After graduating from a Vermont college, I was also part of the merger planning and visioning work that helped shape the system we see here today. I work closely alongside Pierre, the middle school principal, and Shane, our high school principal. As the elementary principal across two campuses, I serve 158 students and their families at South Royalton Elementary School and 190 students and families at Bethel Elementary School, and work with around 58 faculty and staff, many of whom are shared across middle school and high school. Our two campuses elementary model works because of strong systems of support, including shared leadership, collaborative teams, and clear commitment to work together from early childhood to graduation. We also maintain strong partnerships with community organizations to meet the needs of our students and families. We are deeply committed to a whole child education at our school, and we have invested in farm to school initiatives. If you've ever been to the Tunbridge Fair, you've seen our blue ribbon, some of which came from our produce from our food raised beds, and our eggs from our school chicken coop event. We have a robust elementary educating children outdoors program at both campuses, making use of natural resources like the river here in South Royalton and the trail network of Bethel. We have winter activities which are kicking off in January when we come back, which includes swimming opportunities for our kindergartners and skating and skiing for everyone else. The One Planet After School program, which provides care until 5:30 p.m., also offers vacation programming and 6 to 7 week summer camps. We have strong arts programming, including visual and performing arts, which with opportunities for students as young as 4th and 5th grade to participate in courses again. We also have full service community school practices offering access to therapists, dental care, vision screening, and a pediatrician on our campuses through partnerships with Claire Martin Center, Health Buzz, and the Lions Club. I would also be remiss not to also mention that even during COVID, we successfully delivered full virtual learning while continuing to support educators and families, and we are among the first of the schools to return to in-person learning well ahead of others. Academically, we are seeing strong results from our teachers' hard work and our intentional professional development.
Student performances above state averages in places, particularly in science. Our campuses have been acknowledged by Vermont PBIS and are silver status for the last school year, which is an acknowledgement of our campuses demonstrating high quality implementation of the PBIS framework. This year, we are actively addressing chronic absenteeism and working closely with outside agencies such as South Carolina Health Center, Health Hub, and DCI. At the same time, we are seeing increasing strain on state health and human services agencies that we rely on as crucial partners. Finally, we are proud of our fiscal stewardship. Over the past 5 years, we've maintained lower tax rates and completed major capital without bonding, all while expanding opportunities for students. I look forward to sharing more about how our model works, the challenges we face, and the support we need to sustain and strengthen public education in Vermont. And in closing, once a first grade teacher, always a first grade teacher. There's a picture book by Sharon Creech called A Fine Fine School. I'm gonna cry about a principal who has pride in his school. It culminates with the reflection that the balance between structured learning and real life experiences is what best for kids. As both an educator and a parent and children parent, I would say the confidence you have is truly a fine school.
I didn't hear the name of the book because
A fine school.
a fine school. So this is like a book you can read.
I actually often get invited into classrooms to read it in New York. It's actually hilarious. The principal's like, this is a fine school. We should go to school on Saturdays. We should go to school on Sundays. We should go to school all year. And the little girl says, but I have to teach my dog how to sit and I have to learn how to climb a tree. And that school is important, and so are our outdoor education opportunities, are seeing opportunities in all the things we do. One of the numbers fair sophomore. Yeah, thank you.
So my name is Wendy Stetson. I'm also a Vermonter and went to high school at Attleboro Academy in high school and come from a family of educators, to say the least. I'm currently the principal at Rochester and Stockbridge Elementary School, which are preschool through 6th grade. When I first took this position, it was at the tail end of Act 46, and I was just principal of Stockbridge. After completing my second year, which was supposed to be smoother, and then was COVID, so that was not true at all. I became the shared principal of both Rochester and Stockbridge Elementary School, while also being the principal of the virtual academy that we ran for families who do not feel comfortable for their students to come back to in-person learning. Prior to this role, I was also part of Act 46 as I was the athletic director and high school social studies teacher at what was Whitcomb High School. Since merging as a Rochester and Stockbridge Unified District, we've come a long ways for many reasons, but the most of the educational opportunities we've been able to provide our students that were not in existence prior to. For example, we now have art classes 1 time a week throughout the entire school year. When I first started, students only had art class a total of 18 times a year. We provide winter wellness, which includes skiing and snowboarding lessons, ice skating, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, basically anything outside, at no cost to families, and it runs for 6 weeks throughout January and February. We now have outdoor education 2 times a week. This was not even an option prior to merger. We also have a math interventionist, something we did not have at all when I first started. Literacy intervention was a part-time position by an amazing person who worked like 3.5 days a week. When we merged, we were able to provide it with a position. I would make the argument now that our test scores and our kids are such strong readers that we've been able to decrease that. We also are now able to offer 2 days a week of PE classes. At the time, it was only offered 1 time, and I was frequently teaching PE class because I wasn't able to fill the position when I first started. We also are farm to school and forest community. This has included local field trips around all of our local farming and partnerships with those areas. Gardening, we invite our families in to cook with us, and we frequently are able to do multi-age, not just multi-age classrooms, but we will be pre-K through 6 in our, we call it a multi-purpose room, but gym, lunchroom, the space where everything happens, where everybody is cooking together. So from 3-year-olds all the way to 12-year-olds, we'll sometimes get a group together. There was no instrumental music lessons or chorus, and we're now able to. We increased all these educational opportunities, and while some may say, well, that must have been incentive. I'm here to tell you that our, state per pupil spending, like our per pupil spending is lower than the state average. In fact, last year, for this current school year, our, per pupil spending under the long-term weighted average was $12,357, which was actually down from the 2024-2025 school year, $12,470 per pupil. The largest portion of our budget annually is not staff, it's not healthcare, it's actually our 7 through 12 tuition. Because all our 7 through 12 tuition students have schools like that. We are able to manage that through the strengthening of our local middle school and high school within our SU. And now that these are the two schools that a majority of our population chooses to. So through that partnership, we are able to keep that at a more predictable level than what it was when I first started. Other ways we've created cost-saving measures that have also been effective is sharing roles and responsibilities across both Rochester and Stockbridge Elementary. The following positions are shared between our two campuses. Myself, the school counselor, our school nurse, our art teacher, our outdoor educator, music teacher, physical education teacher, librarian, math interventionist, and our special educator and special educator service provider. And within our partnership with White River Valley Supervisory Union, we're able to provide occupational therapy to students, physical therapy, and as well as teaching language. We've expanded all these educational opportunities, and we've been able to support all of our families by truly becoming a full service school. There's partnerships that we have created, first with our local health agency of Clara Martin, which provides a school-based clinician to us. Okay. We also have dental services through what's called Health Hub that comes 2 times a year and provides dental cleanings to most families who cannot access dental services anywhere else. And we have a partnership with Gifford Pediatrics, which comes 1 to 2 times a month right into our school. So students never have to miss and travel, sometimes upwards of over an hour to access those services. In working in our partnership with Clara Martin, we've also been able to keep our out-of-district placement rate to 0%. We support families who have food insecurity through grant funding and other local opportunities by providing, and in fact, my amazing staff is putting them together right now to see food boxes per household over extended vacations. We may be very small in size, but we're nimble. And we support all our students' needs as they arise. In fact, there's only 21% of our students who are supported by either an IEP, 504, or targeted intervention plan. And this is due in large part to being able to provide early intervention, as we provide full 5-day-a-week preschool programs for our 3 and 4-year-old students within and outside of our school district. And this comes at no cost to the family. So this is part of our school budget. At the end of the 2024-2025 school year, 86% of our kindergarten through 3rd grade students met or exceeded the standard in math test. And 79% of our kindergarten through 3rd grade students met or exceeded the standard in literacy. This is due to us being able to leverage partnerships within our supervisory union model and implementing instructional programming such as bridges or direct instruction in literacy. So again, we're small in size. There's 87 kids in Rochester, and there's 47 kids in Stockbridge. But please keep in mind, the nearest elementary school, if this were to close school, is anywhere from 18 to 26 miles away from Rochester. And not just like a straight shot, because there is no such thing as a straight shot from Rochester, all right? That's either over one of 2 mountains. You can head to Brandon, you can come to Bethel, or you could go through what's called the Gulf, which is really fun when the weather changes on Route 100. I don't know if you've experienced that travel up to the Waits right now. Right. Imagine trying to put your 5-year-old on the bus for that. And I think you will hear that in echo when some of our community members come out today. So we pride ourselves on being a small school with a big heart, and where all students are seen and have relationships not just with their classroom teacher, but multiple other adults in the building who are consistently providing a safe space for them. And this connection and our additional support and educational opportunities are creating greater student success and skills. And I would not want your job for the world of what you're going on. And I know taxpayers are seeing the burden of what's going on, but keep in mind, it's the kids that are gonna have the greatest impact with whatever comes up. And that's why all of us are here, to make sure kids are kept in the forefront of this decision.
Yes, and all of those things are true. Thank you for your time in looking at this very critical issue for us. I speak to you today as a school leader and principal of a middle school, to be very clear. I can't divorce that from who I am as a taxpayer facing nearly 40% increase on my taxes in a very different district. I can't separate it from my experience as a school board member in the bygone era, co-chairing the Act 46 steering committee. I've seen firsthand what happens when in a conversation you use words like consolidation, school closure, efficiencies. And instead of going back into that sometimes circular conversation, I want to answer something that your chair framed for me. Really, what are we doing here to create opportunities for students? Because at the end of the day, you're looking at scales and efficiencies. And I appreciate your question, Senator, of thinking of it from a different lens. What if this was the place that was attractive? And indeed, that's the system our leadership and we have been building, the place that's attractive. So I see increasing student numbers in our district, like others. They're trying to build systems and programming. I personally have spent the vast majority of my adult career in education, from quite literally everything from the school custodian, teaching through all grades, multiple subjects, teaching in college, and then school board member. So I have some idea of what you're talking about when you're looking at shared staff or efficiencies or things that have impact on different areas of the school. This particular school, my school, White River Valley Middle School, and the White River Valley School, was one of the first in Vermont, to my knowledge, to enter into building on the community schools model. I'd like to talk to you about how that was a vehicle for change. It fundamentally reshaped our approach. It certainly reshaped my approach coming into this school. And through coordinated partnerships, as has been mentioned, with our local community health and mental health agencies, we do more than just say we provide wraparound supports. We have very intertwining, connected wraparound supports for students and families that have netted true results, measurable results in terms of how we approach chronic absenteeism and student engagement, bringing families back to the table to more than just comply with attendance, but to identify what are those barriers and obstacles. That comes from the philosophy of being a community-centered school where you're public facing. We are not unique in that mission. Other colleagues I have around the state, shout out to Bob DiGiulio at Hazen, has a similar approach of building on the community's strengths so that what we're nurturing in student learning matches the kinds of job sets and skills we need, the industry that's going around, to do the same thing we're all concerned about, keeping Vermont talent in Vermont, ceasing the brain drain, keeping our youth seeing a connection to the community where they can thrive. Just as importantly, the community schools model really allowed us to expand learning opportunities earlier and more intentionally. The philosophy and the connections we made allowed us to bring work-based learning to a 7th grader, to bring algebra to 7th and 8th graders, to look for those opportunities that were more than just a one-off that could pave the way for opening other pathways. In this community schools model, we lean into the concept of flexible pathways, and we know whether it's Principal Bowen or Stetson, or my colleague to my left, Principal Oaks, our job is to create a meaningful pathway towards graduation, to have sights on something that matters beyond just doing school, having aspirations, exploration. So I will lean into capstone projects here. An example of how we expand opportunities beyond our walls. I mentioned that more than just 2 towns send to me, more than just the Rudd School District send students to me. And that's by intentionally recruiting, working with partners throughout the SU, but also becoming a hub for places like VTBLC, where some of my students, never physically met, seen through Zoom, and live multiple counties away. Some of your constituents attend my middle school, hours away. I am left wondering how we can apply that kind of success and being a hub of learning. We're also talking about physically moving students across large distances. Just a wonderment of those. Innovation here is really a core tenet of our work. And what that comes through as is investment in STEAM, more than just an acronym. We have a vibrant arts program to treat the whole child, the whole student. But an example of how that's grown in my middle school, we invested heavily in a makerspace, a wonderful glittering crown jewel that has everything from hand felting, leather working, loom, sewing, embroidery machines, laser cutters, engravers, basic CNC machining skills and life skills and production skills that allow us to take a minds-on approach and make it a hands-on approach as well. That space is also a hub for another core tenet of our school. How do we give back to this community that's given us so much? An aspect of the community school that we try to grow and keep central. What are we giving back to these communities that support us? It's important, again, that what we're trying to produce, what we're trying to nurture, our students with curiosity, with resilience that will push through obstacles, but also look at the community as something they want to be a part of. It's supportive them, they have a two-way relationship, they see job opportunities, they see advancement, evolution of our systems, they see people thriving and more likely to stay with us. An important and hard to quantify aspect of the opportunities we create is how we have really changed, in my mind, relationships with parents, caregivers, concerned community members. Whether it's a hosted event where we have a specific singular topic or meeting for coffee and cannoli, not making that last one up, I enjoyed the cannoli. We have multiple ways where people can give us meaningful feedback and they see meaningful change. Not nodding, smiling, and these parents and caregivers are not coming in combative. Here's the problem. They're coming in saying, we love what you're doing here, but it could be even better. A recent piece of feedback was, we recognize you offer a lot of opportunities. What are you doing for the parents that don't have all the wherewithal to advocate for? How do we know what's out there? So we know one of our missions is better broadcasting of what those opportunities are. Having the parents at the table, beyond as stakeholders, but true partners in education, and knowing that what we're doing is the best interest of the child, comes through in how we are framing these conversations. We're not having multiple meetings, we're getting all the caregivers' resources there at one time through those partnerships. At the same time, we are very realistic, I think, about current challenges. We continue to address chronic absenteeism through that close collaboration with our outside partners and with each other. These partnerships, I stress, they are essential. I know you know that. I'd like to point out they require proximity, coordination, long-term sustainability to remain effective. We're seeing results after a couple of years of growing that partnership. I'm excited to think what that would look like 5 years down the road. I don't know how that would work if a student is 30 miles from their home in a different regional high school potentially. The doctor at the table is not their own caregiver. We currently have the practitioners working with the families at the table in conversation to make plans that affect change. Throughout all of these opportunities we created, we have remained committed to our leadership and our alignment to really responsible fiscal stewardship, that word used intentionally, what the taxpayers are expecting and what they're investing in. We prefer to invest in structures that meaningfully change, keep things safer, offer more opportunities, adding to the shops and the makerspace, to our amazing outdoor ed program. That's what this community invests in, and you see that when community members show up and invest in our spaces, cutting the mountain biking trails on my campus, rehabbing a 9-hole disc golf course. Because one thing we are proud of, our students are outside every single day. We use the word stewardship local land, the taxpayer finances of their future, and use that word intentionally. I hope that as you consider the future of public education in Vermont, I do encourage you to look very closely at how opportunity is created in practice. Because whatever path we take, built through relationships, proximity to those resources, whatever they might be, and through that community investment. How distance, scale, and access affect students' readiness to learn, and a community's sense of voice. Those are huge challenges you consider, and I know you know that. Again, I thank you for your time. And I will leave with a pitch about our SU, our school district, our partnerships. You should be looking at how to add to us. We are a model. And we are built on models that you'll find across the state. We put community needs at the front and center. Thank you.
Greetings, thank you. As I said earlier, my name is Shane Oaks. I'm the first year principal here at White River Valley High School. But this is my 7th year working here at South Road campus. I've taken an interesting path to get here. I moved to Vermont with my wife back in 2000 after we graduated from college, settled near her family in central Vermont. I started my professional career as a correctional officer. Having studied criminology in college, I really saw a professional career in service, law enforcement, something along those lines. And I quickly realized that I needed to do work further upstream than where I started out. And so I left that job and I came to work at the Claire Martin Center in Randolph, the local community mental health agency. And for 2 years worked with adults, and then I had the opportunity to transition into the Child and Family program, where I began working at East Valley Academy, which is an approved independent special education school that serves students with social, emotional, and behavioral challenges. It was there that I earned my teaching license. Spent 11 years at East Valley Academy, the last 5 as the head of school, as well as the director of school-based services for the Claire Martin Center. It's in that capacity that I first worked with Principal Bowen and Superintendent Kenarney, and really helped me shape a strong understanding of service needs in the state and the challenges that our schools face. Now, back in the early 2000s, you could drive from Chelsea down to Tunbridge, down to South Royalton, over to Bethel, across the way through Stockbridge and Rochester, and there was 4 high schools there. And I'm not a Vermonter. I'm from northern Maine. I grew up in a very rural school district of about the same size geographically as White River Valley Supervisory Union, but we don't have the same topographical challenges. Big transportation is a barrier that is here. But that didn't make a lot of sense to me, that we had so many schools in such close proximity, and I saw some of the challenges that our community faced. In 2015, I left East Valley Academy to work at the Family Center of Washington County, which is the parent-child center closer to home. It was a move that was good for my family and my personal needs. And I stepped into another field that was undergoing a lot of change at the time. The Race to the Top Early Challenge Grant. So Let's Grow Kids was coming on board. There was a lot of attention in the early childhood field and a lot of promise about the science and investment in youth. And it was there that I became familiar with an analogy about systems and how a lot of our systems in Vermont are similar to old farmhouses. They start with the building of the house, and then a barn, and then you add a milking parlor, and an outbuilding, and then maybe you connect some of these things, you add an addition onto the house, and eventually you get a structure that continues to meet the needs. But if we had started from scratch and designed it with that forward thinking, probably isn't the design that we would have. And that was certainly my experience in the early childhood field at the time. So when in 2019, when I decided to come back into education, I really chose White River Valley High School because of all the work that I saw happen. Not only have they had difficult conversations and made decisions at the local level to merge schools, there were some forced consolidations in there as well, I understand. But they were really actively working to build a MTSS system, mobile tier student support, that really works to address and make sure that we're meeting the needs of all students. So I really drawn to that and had just been so excited and proud of the work that we have done as a community in my time here. So, you know, I think there are three things that really make this school special and this community special to me. And I think that is this sense of community belonging that we've created, the connections and the partnerships that we have within our local community, those other resources, and the opportunities that we are able to provide. And so when I think about belonging, you know, I believe that our students need a strong sense of community and need to have deep connections with their teachers. This is a challenging time for our students, and they face a lot of challenges. And we are asking them consistently to be vulnerable, to put themselves out there in a world that isn't always that kind and supportive. And I couldn't ask for a more supportive, caring, and compassionate community than what we have here. And it's not just the teaching staff that work here that are paid professionals, as others have spoken to. It's really a community that comes out, that is involved, that is engaged, and cares deeply in advocating for what's best for students and for taxpayers. We've accomplished a lot to build that community, do some very unique things through our teacher advisory structures, the way that we develop community here at the high school through morning meetings, school-wide activities, and traditions such as turkey trots and outing days and spring and winter carnivals and other things that, as Ms. Bowen talked about with reference to our books, really are important things that extend beyond just what we think of as traditional academic days, but serve as that foundation of that relationship, that authentic connection that students and teachers are able to develop and foster, that really allows us to transition to the classroom and be able to challenge and push students in the way that they need to. We also have a long history of community-based learning here, where students are able to find meaningful opportunities to engage with learning outside of the classroom, exploring areas of interest, different careers, volunteer opportunities, supportive employment. A lot of students are earning credit for classes and work that they're doing out in the community. And working on that through our White River Valley Portrait of a Learner characteristics and traits, so that they understand that connection between the things that we're asking them to do here in the classroom and what those look like once they move beyond high school and are out in careers. There's been a lot of talk about our community partnerships. Certainly community mental health, our local health centers, you mentioned the health hub, the fact that we have care coordinators and sometimes even doctors participating in our MTSS systems, where we're trying to problem solve and work around some of our most challenging and complex students and families, is just absolutely amazing to me. And just a strength of our school. And then the opportunities that we've been able to create here. You know, we have a flexible pathways department that 41% of our students are engaged in some form of flexible pathway. It's outside of just the traditional courses, study classes that all high school students kind of look to and pick from. And that really allows them to customize their path, lean into their interests, and find things that are meaningful, learning that they see themselves in, and work to keep them engaged in reducing dropout rates. We also really are lucky and fortunate to be able to have partnerships with both the Hartford Area Career Technical Center and the Randolph Career Technical Center that are two very different programs, one half day, one full day, and our physical proximity and ability to work with both schools provides a lot of opportunities for students to find the path that works best for them. Here, our co-curricular activities for a small Division III school are pretty outstanding. We offer 17 varsity sports. We also have co-op partnerships with other area schools. So if there are activities like football and lacrosse and things like that that we don't offer here, we still have students that are able to engage in and work in those things. Our performing arts department is an absolute pride and joy of the community. So we offer concert band, jazz band, chorus, drama, our National Honor Society. We have numerous clubs. There is something for everybody to get involved in here. And so this is a wonderful community to work and teach in. It is very reminiscent of my own upbringing that really had a whole community of folks that was involved in raising and shaping. And I see a lot of those same things here. I'm just really proud to be a member of this community and happy to answer any questions that you all might have. Thank you.
Start with a couple minutes, but I want to pull the thread a little bit more on. I had one principal back in my district say to me, elementary school principal, K through 8, if it were up to me, buses wouldn't run until 5 o'clock. And because we do after school program, parents wanted to pick their kids up early, that would be fine, but we'd have really good after school program because so often what kids are going home to isn't conducive to the next day.
Right.
And then thinking about you alluded to summer programs. And so there's the in-school program and it's so important, but then you've alluded to the high school level, all the opportunities for perhaps after school, extracurricular activities. We'll talk about that at the elementary level. What are you doing for kids? More than a lot of kids living in poverty, a lot of kids without. And so thinking about after school and summer, what are you doing to augment that, the opportunity for those kids?
Yeah, so in Rochester, Stockbridge, and really supervisory union-wide at the elementary level, we have what's called One Planet after school programming, and it runs till like 5:30, depending on the location. Families who are supported through free and reduced lunch, discounted rate, and scholarship opportunities, so that we structure it as a beta return. Through that, we have program leaders that come in and offer things like Junior Iron Chef is getting ready to start, or we have a partnership with the Arts Fund out of Randolph that comes in one day a week. During the summertime, that runs approximately 6 to 7 weeks. Some that run 7
Yeah.
weeks. 6 to 7 weeks, depending on the location. And that runs, I think, we share a site in the summer in Stockbridge and Rochester, and we provide transportation for families when it's not in Rochester, it's not in Stockbridge, we run a bus. And that pickup starts at 7:30 in the morning and runs for the 3 to 5. And we then provide swimming lessons over the summer through that programming.
Field trip every week. They go somewhere. This is a learning opportunity. I agree. There's like partnerships. We have Bonshire comes in and does programming here with kids. So there's a lot of going places. There's a lot of people coming to us while we're here. There's also tutoring embedded. So we identify kids before we leave for the summer that might need an extra boost over the summer to stop learning loss. So we have teachers that come in and pick up kids to do fun summer tutoring, so we don't have that slide over the summer as well. We also offer a lot of food, so we're feeding kids, we're feeding families as well.
We heard about that at the cafeteria.
Yeah.
Over the summer. So the middle school has a word to throw in here.
Oh, I'm anxious to answer that question. We have we have a middle school that offers, I think, more than any. We have an after-school club during the school year, almost every single day, ranging from D&D gaming to art projects to film discussion, all kinds of clubs, in addition to some pretty vibrant sports of our own. We have a contract with an outside bus agency to provide a second round of busing around 12:30. We also work with them on other times of the day in the route to get students from this side of the mountain to the other side of the mountain, so to speak. We do not want food insecurity to be an barrier to access. Through some of our community partnerships with Lady Institute and UVM, we had interns building even more of our summer food service program. You heard about 10,000 meals leaving our campus. We're also working towards the point where we can make sure those who eat are going home with dinner. The student waiting for that 5:30 practice that might not have a full cover, you get a meal just the same as this other student sitting next to them, so that everyone has that. Those are just pieces of how we try to fill programming. Interesting to have until 5, but
Yeah, a lot at the high school, a lot of our activities are more athletics. We do have some after-school clubs. Clever Cat Scholar Squad is a student-run study group. We also have various eating clubs, as I mentioned earlier, the drama and play performances are very vibrant and draw a lot of students. And we do leverage the collaborative relationship with RCD, the bus company, to make sure that students that have transportation challenges have ways to get back to their home communities as well.
Thank you. I think we have, maybe we'll take
But
time for.
also say that, kids, there's something for everyone, but there's many things for some kids too. So kids are doing multiple sports or engaging in many of these things. They're in the play and on the basketball team. They're not just, I can only do one thing. So I feel like that's it's a real highlight for our kids here, that they can dabble in all things. They don't just get cut because they're not the best. They can learn to grow, be shining in all of them.
Why don't we'll take one more question if somebody has one. We'll be a little bit behind if we do that, but.
Well, your fourth graders asked me for a water park, just, so.
I'll get it
A
done.
little behind. I said the state house should have a water park.
We'll get that whole thing.
Well, we used to have the fire department come.
It's a river down the river. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was really helpful, really deeply informative, actually. So thank you very much for the time. We'll switch right over to. Anything you want us to start with?
Well, I was going first. I know Senator Ron Hinsdale had some questions in regards to how the supervisory meeting works and how the money flows through the supervisory meeting. Really, why would a bond vote here at the White River Unified District not have voters voting on that vote, in example in Chelsea? And so one of the things you've heard me speak to that I think is important is that the supervisory union structure provides for local governance and still local control and oversight of your schools. And frankly, I would say to you, I'll put up our ed spending, I'll put up our academic scores against all the different SDs and SUs across the state. And one of the reasons I think we do well is accountability measures that are in place by our local school district boards and the local citizens that I go to and report to monthly with the board. And that when we vote on our budgets, I'm looking them in the eye and talking to them about how our students are performing, and they get to ask questions. And they're voting on their school budgets from the floor, majority of them. Only the White River Unified District uses Osceola ballot. It's Stratford right now, but there's major turnout for our town meetings even there to get those questions answered prior to voting. And so the way that it works here is that the White River Unified District right now has 83 tuition students that come to us from across the state. Majority of which come from this SU. And we announce our tuition at $19,900. And when that money comes in, when we're announcing that tuition, those funds are helping us support not only the program the students receive, but also the facility as well. And what that's allowed us to do is we've been able to increase tuition dollars into this White River Unified District. We've been able to expand programming that you've heard principals and teachers talk about, and also improve our facilities. And the bond did not pass, but yet we've been able to put money away in our reserves, and the board just took action last night to do a $2.3 million project that we didn't need a bond for in order to do. And then we're able to use our capital reserve funding to help offset as well as private donors that we have about $750,000 to make that happen. So that gym that you see behind you will be totally recreated into a performing arts center next summer. And all the security actions work will be done and the HVAC work that we have planned for this district. Yes, Senator.
So, and I'm sorry, I have to leave in 5 minutes. I hear that, but you're also a great person to educate us on where we find value in supervisory unions if we were to allow for them in a new construct. And getting tuition dollars from a handful of students from a town is very different than having that town take part in bonding for school facilities, right? I don't know if I'm not understanding, but if you have a choice town and they decide where to send their dollars, that whole town is not bonding for the local high school like the towns that do not have choice and are supporting that local high school. That seems patently unfair. That's not equal.
Well, if Stratford was to bond for their school, which they could choose to do, White River Unified District would also not have a vote in improving their infrastructure in Stratford.
So why?
Because we're separate school district entities.
So
the voters get to oversee their local school district budgets.
I think if we're finding any value in supervisory unions versus districts, it has to be facilities efficiencies, and it has to be towns paying equal amounts for things like a regional high school.
I would say to you that when you look at large multi-town school districts, which I think you've been provided data on, that they tend to spend excessively more money per student than multi-town supervisory units. And I believe part of the reason for that is fiscal responsibility and involvement in those local school district boards and communities around decision making. And reminder, you all know this, the Ed Fund is a statewide Ed Fund. People in Royalton didn't get to vote for the bond in Burlington, but they are also helping fit the bill for the bond in Burlington.
Right. So then I just don't see the value of a supervisory union unless we say, this is the high school you all are paying for. That's how we get to regional high school.
Well, I see a value in not saying to someone who lives in Granville that they have to pay for a high school here that their child doesn't attend. And I don't think it makes sense to have a student in Granville, which touches Warren, to have to be on the bus to come to this high school. Their family travels either over the Middlebury or up the valley for work up to Harvard. And that's where I see the value of choice for rural districts.
I guess what I'm not clear on is the whole community is paying for the high school, not just the tuition student.
Only the taxpayers of Bethel and Welton are voting and improving this high school's budget.
So isn't
because they are a K-12 operating district.
But if we let communities keep choice within supervisory unions, I don't know how we say your whole town is let out of paying for having a high school.
They pay for that via their tuition dollars.
Tell me how much they pay more for the facility.
We charge $19.9 per student. I have other public schools next to my district that is charging as much as $27,000 per student. I have independent schools in this SU, like Sheridan Academy, that are paid about 20, charging 22. And Bedford Academy that's charging 23, and Harvard that charges close to 25. And so what I would say is that the real question is how do we create accountability to districts for student achievement and per pupil spending? And one of the simple things I think we could have done in the meantime, as we looked at Act 73 and talking about merging and how public dollars follow is really looking at what is the means with an excess spending threshold penalty, and really looking at how are we going to hold accountability to districts of how much they're spending per pupil. I also think that we should be looking at saying that there's measures in regards to student performance, measures in regards to community engagement that we should be measuring. If school districts are not performing well in those areas, that we ought to be going in and providing serious technical support to right the ship around that, much like we had when Secretary Holcomb was secretary in regards to what happened around the New Mountain Star after No Child Left Behind. And I would say to you that the choice districts in this SU, a majority of them didn't ask for choice. Montpelier said they were too small and they had to close their high school. And that resulted in them then having choice. They did what Montpelier said they should have done during Act 46. Chelsea didn't want to close that high school. Montpelier told them they had to. And now what I'm hearing, Senator, is that Montpelier should then say that you also then, if you live up on the Washington line and have a closer high school in Williamstown, that you should be forced to come down 110 now from the high school. I don't think that's right. That's not what they asked for.
I don't know that anyone's saying they should be forced to go to a specific high school, but every community should be paying for a high school.
And they do through their tuition dollars. I'm happy to sit down and show you how that finance works. But when a high school sets their announced tuition, they are also figuring in the facility center.
But you said the biggest part of your budget is money being tuitioned out of this district.
I never.
Okay.
No, what one of my principals said is that tuition dollars on which we also receive, because the majority of your students come to this district, is what's driving her budget, right? Because she has limited teachers in her K-6 sections. She now, because Rochester closed their high school, are forced to tuition out. And a majority of her kids are coming here, so they are helping pay for the facility we're gonna build next summer. She just doesn't have control over that because the tuition's announced.
So once again, what I feel like I'm hearing is that the foundation formula is the cost containment measure, because we'd no longer be sending $22,000, $24,000, $25,000 to Academy. We're sending the same amount.
You are not going to hear me say that I have a major concern with the approach to a foundation formula. Getting their weights correct and ensuring that they make sense, we need to do some real good research on, because I think part of why we got here was that we didn't get that right during Act 127. And that 5% spending threshold that was put in place with that people weren't going to be penalized, folks abused. And that's how we got to this fiscal crisis, coupled with folks using one-time dollars during COVID funding times to add positions that they didn't have a long-term plan of how to pay for. I would also say to you, like many of my colleagues, we agree, Senator, there's too many superintendents. I agree with.
Can you say that again?
There's too many superintendents. And I'll say that because I live in Calais and I drive here to work every day. And on my way from Calais to when I get on the interstate in Montpelier, I drive through 3 supervisory districts, which is a way less square miles than I oversee right now. And so I would agree with you, and I'm not picking on them. They know I say these things, is that we need to look at right size. What I worry about when we unilaterally right size it with SD, Senator, is that a school board member in Perry doesn't understand what's important for a student in Rochester. And I worry about these large SDs being that school board member in Barry says it's really easy to close that small school in Rochester. But what they don't realize is Granville Hancock kids have nowhere to go to school then through that valley, all the way from Tillington up to Warren. And that's the worry that I have with those large SDs.
Can I just ping on that? So isn't that the role? So in our world, that's the role of government operations. They're the guys who figure out what the structure of the school board will be, like who represents who. So that if there is a larger district and that if there's a heavy inside that district like Barry, but there's small towns and strong, how does that representation be factored in? So I don't think we're so worried about that, because that's a conversation about how to represent the wards that will hopefully result in a fair representation of large communities, small communities simultaneously.
With all due respect, I think for most folks in rural towns, and myself included, who lives in Calais, the school district trying to close the school, and it's the largest it's been in over a decade, unilaterally without a vote of the town. Actually, the school board chair said they should move the kids to another school, only keep pre-K in Calais. Then once the parents see that that worked well, then we'll do a vote of the town to close. Which is not what the articles of agreement said. Actually, there's a big important meeting in Calais about that tonight. The worry I have, Senator, is why I said that, is that I don't trust that we will necessarily get that right. And we'll have fair representation. And I think that that's what lots of folks in Vermont are scared about right now. They trust local governance and local representation. They struggle to be convinced that those wards are going to have their best interests for each one of our current rural district boards. And I think if we could build that trust, that would be helpful. But examples like not following articles of agreement and closing Calais and just keeping one grade in school by a local unified school district. And again, which you heard me say, which I think was not our best approach, closing Roxbury unilaterally when Montpelier couldn't pass a budget, that doesn't build trust. We've not done a good job in regards to education and governance when we act that way.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. The first place I ever heard the word consolidation or merger was superintendents. So what I'd like to get from you is, for the benefit of your experience, the pros and cons of you as a superintendent having authority over a larger footprint as opposed to the 10 communities you have now. Can you just pros and cons of?
Yeah, so let's say, I'm gonna go back to like the example of CT now, right? That was gonna add Orange Southwest to this, to a supervisory union framework. And I believe they had included that for, and if you look at the RTCC, our regional tech center, that it probably would have encompassed CVSU, which is Echo Valley, Orange, Washington. So I would have had 16 towns, 4 counties, essentially from exit 2 to exit 5. The biggest downfall of that would have been my ability to have firsthand knowledge in regards to where we're running efficient or where we need to improve as compared to what I have right now. I can be in my, a majority of my schools every week. The students know me. Some we had at lunch today with the kindergartners. That gives me firsthand information to make important decisions around how to improve programming and to make certain we're being fiscally responsible with the tax dollars we collect. I think that right sizing it, our board has already voluntarily reached out to some other member districts. We submitted that public comment to the task force committee and said, we're willing to get bigger. Do I think that we could get bigger by 4 more districts? No, but could we add another district or 2 on that geographically made sense? Yes, the SU board said they're willing to do that. What we got to make certain though is that we're providing the right size, not to get to systems that rely on middle management bureaucrats in order to oversee that accountability measure. And I worry about if we get too big and don't have the right size, we're going to result in a lot more middle management in order to oversee those things. And that to me is not how we do our best work. I also think that one of the things that we should be doing is taking a really hard look at, what is the right size in regards to management at the SUSD level. If you go to my website, you're not going to see a transportation coordinator or someone that oversees my operations. You're going to see a fairly lean machine where we expect folks to work incredibly hard in the instance.
Thanks. One more question. Earlier it came up that some of the choice high schools in the area are doing dual enrollment with Dartmouth. Meanwhile, you have one AP Calc student. You said you were working on an agreement because I don't think soon we're gonna let them leave the state with those dollars.
Well, Dartmouth College is early college, so in regards to Act 73, I don't think it hits anything in regards to early college or how those dollars flow. Our kids also have an opportunity to do that too, through Dartmouth. And some have taken part. The student we talked about here earlier, just within his schedule, he didn't think that commute made sense for him. You know, in regards to our AP courses, we're right now looking at, you know, right sizing the numbers in those courses as well, but also try to provide as many opportunities as we can while we try to also attract neighboring tuition students. You know, one of the things I've said to some senators in Montpelier is, one of the things I really value by having some choice districts in this SU is it forced this building to get better. Because there was some competition provided that we need to take a hard look in the mirror and say, for the White River Unified District student, we need to do better. But we could use those tuition dollars to reinvest to do better. But it also, we had to say, why is it that we're not attracting the students driving by us to go to another public or private high school? And we had to do a lot of soul searching to say, there are some things we can do better. And I'm proud of the fact that I think we've been making a lot of gains to do those things better. And that has resulted in is we had about 35 tuition students in 2020. We now have 83. And at 19.9, that's a major buck of change that we can reinvest back in the system, which has also helped keep these guys' tax base down. There's some materials in there that you've provided a lot of materials about our academic data indicators and also our finance data indicators. Within this SU, South Royalton taxpayers are paying 12.1% less in their tax rate than they were 5 years ago. That's way different than the 40% average I heard during the December 1 tax levy. There are some things that can be learned. This just idea that unilaterally getting bigger without really researching what makes sense and frankly holding people like me accountable, I don't think we're going to see it's going to work. Superintendents need to be held accountable. We all want to, I want to be. And I'll tell you that leadership is important. From the board perspective to the superintendent perspective down to anyone that's working in the building. You'll see here, I hope you got it, when you walk through the halls, we are committed to kids. And that we're flexible. It's all hands on deck. We're going to work together and we're going to do what's best serves kids. That comes with accountability. And we just got to figure out how to better hold folks in my position accountable, including me.
I just want to say it, from an education policy perspective, it does concern me if we start to lose AP courses on a campus and encourage kids to do dual enrollment. And that was never the intention. You know, we have to worry about that, especially from an equity perspective, who can get off campus and go somewhere else for those classes. So it does concern me.
I can't speak for White Pepper Academy, maybe that Choice or Sheridan Academy. I don't oversee them. At this campus, we're still offering AP courses, but I will also say as someone who is a first college graduate, generation graduate, dual enrollment for some students when I was the principal in Williamstown and their ability to go to Norwich was amazing. I thought that provided a pipeline and ability to trust so that we could foster first generation college graduates, who I don't know if they would have taken the opportunity to pursue that on their own if they didn't have that high school to come back to safely. So I agree with you. It's not supposed to be replacing ETH, but I would also say that it does serve a lot of students, specifically students who might not have the family support or wraparound support from a greater family network to get to college, allow them to have that opportunity to set sail toward.
Other questions? I think you cover everything I had kind of had in mind. And how are your kids, I think one question I asked it, when you got students coming from 8th grade to high school, what percentage are at grade level for How are you doing with grade level for, math and reading?
So across the SU, Senator, we are above the state average in mathematics out of 5 out of the 7 grades tested. In literacy, it's 3 out of 8. We're doing some work in literacy right now, and I'm giving you all the different grades across, that are assessed. We're close in some of those others, but you heard some of the teachers talk about a real focus on literacy. There has been a major focus in literacy in this SU over the last 4 years to address that. And in science, we're 12% above the state average in science in all 3 different grades.
Anything else?
Thank you.
So, we're taking a,
Do you have a little break? Is the-
little break? 20-minute break, right?
We got some music that's gonna perform.
Okay. So